Recently, I released a video here on the channel in which I showed this chart. This chart is basically the Go Collect Collectible Price Index. It's an index organized by comic book eras in which they are looking at the performance of comics that fall within that given era. Me putting this chart in a video prompted a number of people to leave comments on the video and also prompted a few people to reach out to me via DM and even one via email asking questions as to why one specific era of comics is performing better than the others. In addition to this, I've seen a couple of people put up comments on videos in which they've explained that comics are doomed. And so my hope in this video is to speak to both of those questions / comments that people have posed to me lately. Stay tuned. Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. My goal with this video is to essentially kill multiple birds with one video stone. That is the goal, and fingers crossed I can weave this together in a manner that actually makes sense, and ultimately you guys will let me know if I'm successful, and if so, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I want you guys to go ahead and subscribe as a result if I nail it, all right? If I nail it, let me know. But certainly don't be shy about commenting as well, because I'll be reading and responding to the vast majority of comments that are left behind. I first want to start with this notion that comics are doomed. I will tell you that I do not believe this in any way, shape, or form, but I want to deconstruct the statement and also the arguments that people have made when I've engaged them in a conversation. What folks have said to me is that Diamond filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy is a sign that comics are doomed. Again, I do not believe that that is true, but we are still going to break it down. Diamond, in my opinion, has not been a major player in comics since 2020, when they essentially shut the market down, when they stopped shipping comics. And at the time, I said that this was the right thing to do, and I still believe that. I believe that it was the right thing for them to not continue shipping comics to comic shops that could not even open up, because those comic shops would essentially have gone under with all of those bills piling up on them. But when you make a decision, there are sometimes unintended consequences. And one of the unintended consequences is that it began the demise of Diamond. Diamond lost DC, followed by Marvel, followed by Image, followed by several others. And truth be told, Diamond wasn't necessarily doing the right thing by its customers before, but the nail in the coffin honestly happened back in 2020. So for people to think that so goeth Diamond, so goeth the industry, I think is a little bit of a misnomer. The industry is not as dependent upon Diamond as it once was. It's also important when you think about these comments, these very broad comments, to kind of point out the fact that they lack nuance. We are in a hobby where small details actually matter, and when people paint these broad pictures, the comments themselves lack nuance. So if you think about it, the comic book market is not a homogeneous thing. The comic book market is segmented into multiple things. There's a primary market, there's a secondary market, and then, as we've already pointed out, there are different eras of comics. The comic book eras, as we've spoken about, are moving at different rates. They are influenced by different things. What's happening with Diamond impacts modern comics, comics that are coming out right now, not comics on the secondary market, and certainly not Golden Age comics, for example. But I bring this up because some folks cited that the downward trend in the modern comic book era might be attributable to what is happening with Diamond. And again, I don't believe that that is true for some of the reasons that I just cited. I think that there are other factors at play that impact the modern comic book market much more than Diamond. One of those things, probably the biggest thing, is the economy. People buy comics, whether they be new or old, with disposable income. And if you are uncertain about the future and the economy and losing your job, you're not going to spend money. That's the downward trend that we are essentially seeing with modern comics and to some extent with the other eras of comics as well. One of the other factors that I believe is at play, because I think that there are several of them, one of the others that I'll talk about is fatigue. If you think about it, we were on a trend line that was not sustainable, right? 2020 through, let's just say 2023, maybe part of 2024, it was an up and to the right trend line. That was not sustainable long term. And so you have to think people have a little bit of fatigue from chasing the hot book, trying to spend a lot of money to buy this book or that book because maybe it's gonna, be impacted by a TV show or a movie or something like that. That's not sustainable. And as I've pointed out in other videos, a lot of things ebb and flow. There are cycles that things go through, and our hobby is going through a cycle right now. And it's a little bit of an ebb. How long will the ebb last? Who knows? At some point, I firmly believe that things will start to turn around, probably after the economy turns around. When will that happen? I don't know. As I told somebody earlier today, my crystal ball is a little hazy when it comes to that. But my point here is that Diamond filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy is not having a huge impact on modern comics. We also have to remember modern comics technically covers the last 30 some odd years, and the CPI is not comprised of comics that were released last year or the year before. It is made up of books that are cornerstones of the modern era. So the question remains, why does the trend line for Golden Age era comics look different from the other eras? I think that there are several reasons for that, but one of the biggest is scarcity. Actual scarcity and not manufactured scarcity that we might see with ultra modern comics. With manufactured scarcity, publishers will purposefully print fewer copies of comics than they are capable of printing because they want to charge a higher price for those comics. With Golden Age comics, fewer copies of those comics have actually survived time, therefore they are truly scarce. There are individuals out there that are not impacted by a bad economy. They have enough income and enough resources to essentially weather the storm. Some of those people might also be Golden Age comic collectors. And so when copies of these scarce comics become available, people that have the means and have been looking for those comics will actually pounce because they recognize it could be years before they see another copy of that comic come to market. This is very different than the other eras of comics where you can look at a pricing service and see the last 20, 30 sales of a comic that have taken place in a given 2-week period or 1-month period, right? And you have the ability when you do that to see what is that comic worth? What are people paying for? With Golden Age comics, you could have years between actual transactions. So you don't know what to pay, so you pay what you think that comic is worth, again, if you happen to be a Golden Age collector and you have the means to do so. So that is just one of the big differences I think that exists between Golden Age comics and the other eras that are out there. There are a lot of different factors at play that will affect one era differently than another. We don't have the time in this video to dig into that, but I at least wanted to highlight one of the main differences that I see between those eras and why Golden Age looks a little bit different than the others. With that said, I want to take the time to say thank you for watching this video. Thank you for submitting your questions, and because it allowed me to create this video to try to answer those questions that you all had. So if you have additional questions, be certain to leave those below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. Until next time, take care.
used to have big city dreams, but that's a small town thing. I thought the big city life was the only way you could be crowned king.